it feels like your marriage is on the rocks. You've had problems, you were talking about them, but then all of a sudden, marriage communication completely broke down. When your marriage feels like it's running on empty and every conversation is turning into a fight, or worse, silence, it can feel like you're at the end of your tether and you are completely out of ideas on what to do. But it's time to face the music and take deliberate action. Broken down communication doesn't mean that it's over, but ignoring it will definitely push it in that direction. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the why, what, and how of repairing communication in your marriage when communication has completely broken down. So let's face it, this is a marriage. The stakes are high. And if you don't deal with this communication breakdown, resentment, or worse, apathy is going to set in like concrete. And ultimately, one or both of you are going to end up checking out emotionally. Ultimately, that is when separation, divorce, infidelity, or even worse than that, roommate syndrome, just coexisting together, becomes the reality. The biggest shame in this situation is so many people fool themselves into thinking that this just magically resolves itself. Falling for this common mistake alone is going to sink your marriage. A lot of guys screw this up by approaching their partner like they are the problem. They try to fix feelings. They try to force conversations through logic, or worse, they focus on winning arguments. The problem with all of this is that things like winning arguments ends up losing your relationship. But when things are so bad, it kind of feels like a ball of twine, and you're trying to search for the one piece that you can start to pull on to unravel this complex situation. But that's not the way that this communication breakdown works. When communication is crumbling, you've got to take a different step. The first thing is a mindset shift, which is getting yourself out of this blame game and owning what you do. So communication dies when blame takes over. Once you start to point fingers in your mind on whose fault it is, you end up sticking in the past. And in this, ironically, you end up staying in the past rather than focusing on solutions to move forward. The more that you keep your mind in the past about whose fault it was and who did what to lead to this point, the less you end up looking at active solutions now to start moving things forward. So yes, you both contribute to the problem, but the problem is that it only takes one person to solve it. So you have a choice. You can either leave yourself in the past, or you can look forward and start to lead the change by owning your own role first. So, for example, opening up conversations with showing an understanding of how you contribute to this situation. This isn't to force your partner to admit their faults, nor is it to take the full blame of this communication breakdown. But simply owning your part and acknowledging that is a great first step. You know, something along the lines of, I realize that I've been approaching our problems in ways that just aren't working. Now I kind of want to understand how you're feeling instead of just trying to solve everything in one go. But don't just do this once. Start to reflect now on how you've shown up. Do you dismiss feelings? Do you go silent and get into this fawn mode? Or do you blow up? Do you get into fight mode? Facing up and admitting to yourself the things that you've done to contribute to this is a great start, but making sure that you're owning those mistakes openly. At the end of the day, if you think about it, it's going to be very difficult for your partner to buy back in to having conversations with you unless they see a potential future where things could end up differently. A lot of people see admitting mistakes, admitting that you're wrong, admitting that you've been ineffective is weakness. But that is not true at all. Accountability isn't weakness, it's strength. Whether other people recognize it or not, being able to face up to your weaknesses and actually taking action on changing them for the future is a true strength. That is the definition of strength. This is overcoming challenges. So as soon as you start to drop the ego and showing understanding of the impact that those actions have had onto the situation is going to be crucial without any sort of justification or explanation. So as an example, I know that I've been shutting you down when you try and talk. And I can see how hurtful that is. I'm going to hold off on making promises, but I'm actively looking at how I can start to change that. And this way, you're not saying you're going to change. You're not promising that you're going to change, but you're showing an understanding and showing that this is a problem that needs to be addressed. Next, when there is a communication breakdown, it's important to start rebuilding trust in conversations. This is about starting small and being consistent. So rather than having some epic big conversation that puts a lot of pressure on about how we should talk, how we need to talk, how things have to be spoken about, instead, build trust through your actions. So this is about starting small and being consistent. So if communication is completely shattered, diving into heavy emotional topics immediately is kind of like trying to sprint with a broken leg. You're going to end up crashing. So it's really important to start small. So this isn't just about having surface level conversations. There still needs to be some discomfort. There still needs to be conversations that are around the issues within the relationship. They need to be done in small ways that show that conversations aren't going to end up like they used to end up. So as well as having the regular surface level conversations, which are normal conversations to have, starting to introduce simple but slightly uncomfortable conversations around the issues that I've been having. And again, this can be coupled with the first one, building safety around specific subjects. So for example, if the money has been an issue, being able to approach conversations in a small way, but taking ownership and being able to validate your partner's feelings on how you've handled things in the past that may have impacted their feelings. So as an example, hey, I've been thinking about how I approached finances with you in the past, and I've realized that I can be quite controlling when it comes to money. And I think if I put myself in your shoes, I would feel like every choice that I wanted to make would have to be approved by him. And I think that that would make me feel very small and very undervalued in the relationship. Is that kind of how you're feeling? In this way, what you're doing is you're showing that you're not going to blow up. You're willing to take responsibility and accept the impact that your actions may have had, but you're also building safety around small conversations. There's no pressure for your partner to start fixing things. You're simply taking the time to show an understanding and open the door for that conversation to happen. And this, over time, is a simplistic and safe way to start building positive momentum on conversations. This creates a safe space. And make sure during this time that you're sticking to your word. You're not interrupting, you're not name calling or blaming, and you're not dismissing your partner's feelings. Take this time to listen and understand and simply data collect what your partner is saying. There's no way that you're able to overcome challenges and problems within the relationship without being able to show that you are able to sit and listen to what your partner has to say, no matter how tough or hurtful it feels to you. Being able to validate your partner's experience doesn't mean that you have to agree, but you need to show her that her feelings make sense. So if your partner is giving you a lot of tough truths, then being able to show that you understand why they feel that way. That is validating your partner's feelings without coming up with an excuse or a reason as to why you did it. This is not the time to explain. Next, in order to start rebuilding this communication again, it's important to start shifting your mindset from fixing to connecting. Connection is the most important part of any relationship to build this emotional safety, this safe space for you both to be able to express your feelings openly without any sort of negative consequences. If your goal is to try and fix your partner, or worse, get your partner off your back, then you're doing it wrong. Connection happens when you focus on understanding and empathizing. Being able to listen to your partner shows security and it rebuilds attraction. This isn't just shutting up and listening. This is actually being able to take the time to think and reflect what your partner may be feeling. This is what builds connection. This is what builds trust. So instead of trying to change what your partner is doing, letting your partner work through their own feelings themselves. In this way, you're empowering them to be able to start to work on any problems that they feel that they have without any pressure to do it for you. And you can do this by asking better questions. So instead of, example, saying, what's wrong now? Try something, how can I support you better? In this situation, would you like me to help, or do you just want a listening ear? And during this time, make sure that you're getting curious, not defensive. So when your partner does bring up an issue, especially if it's personal to you, lean into it with curiosity. Say to your partner, tell me more about that. I want to understand your feelings. So even if this is hard to hear, being able to listen and understand why your partner sees you in a certain way, why your partner understands your action the way that they understand your actions. But most importantly, during this time, make sure that you start challenging your own toxic beliefs. We all have biases that we need to work through. And thinking that we don't is fooling ourselves. So if you've been telling yourself, she's too emotional or she's impossible to talk to, that is the kind of toxic thinking that blocks progress. This blocks relationships. Once you blame their character, this stops you and your ability to be able to understand. This is what my members and I call the actor-observer bias. This is being unable to put yourself in your partner's shoes to be able to comprehend what they're feeling and why they're performing the actions they're performing. This means being able to build the skill to put myself into my partner's shoes and understand them in order to present better solutions for us both moving forward. So now that we know what to do, how are we going to do this? What are practical solutions in order to start turning it around? Well, The first thing you can do is set up a no pressure talk. Choose a neutral time and space, not during a fight, not when either of you is exhausted from work or having the kids around, whatever it is, and approach your partner with calm intention. But make sure you're also practicing self-regulation, learning the skills and tools to be able to calm yourself and self-soothe yourself during times when there could be strong emotions, so that you're not reacting with anger, you're not stonewalling, you're not getting defensive. These are crucial in order to start turning this around. It's not just about what you do, it's about how you do it. It's about what level you do it to. So getting into a mastery mindset of not just doing one thing to a 2 out of 10, but about doing it over and over again and raising it 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10, until you can safely turn around and say, I understand this skill and I am mastering it. It's only in mastering it and showing up consistently over time that it will start to turn that ship around. And once you do get into that habit and make it your core, then you'll be surprised at how quickly things start to turn around and head into a really positive direction. And if you want to take the first step on this journey in order to learn these skills and start repairing, rebuilding, and regrowing your relationship, then join my Relationship Bootcamp, where you'll learn the same first steps that all of my members use to start turning their relationship around. I'll link to it in the description. Just click on that to grab your spot. Being able to learn these skills in order to be able to handle tough conversations better. This is going to help you to be able to come up with more practical solutions to move the relationship forward. Because ultimately, if you end up doing nothing, if you end up letting this communication breakdown get worse, then this is going to metastasize. There's going to be more misunderstandings, and these misunderstandings are going to turn into assumptions, which is going to turn into resentment. And this ultimately is the kiss of death for your relationship. And it's up to you to start putting in the action to start fixing your communication. Learning how to de-escalate conversations in order to bring the conversation down to a more neutral level. I've actually done a deeper dive video on this, which I'll link to up above. But learning the skills to be able to de-escalate conversations without getting defensive, shutting down, or arguing with your partner. So this isn't just about avoiding divorce. This is about creating a marriage for both of you where you can actually build intimacy together. But it takes one person to start leading that direction in the right way. So if you want to learn the skill to start de-escalating conversations, then I'm going to leave you with that video, and I will see you over there.